Yo, what's going on? Hey, on location from the beautiful Indianapolis, because your boy gonna be doing this wrestling vacation. But I have some quick topics that people email me questions about that I want to get through, and we'll end it off with the cover story where we're gonna talk about Tiffany Henyard's response to the fight, but we're also going to talk about something that occurred at the trustee meeting prior to the fight that was actually very, very good and very important. As always, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Lady Luck, what is going on? Shout out to you for dropping the first comment of the day. I will tell you the election hearing. I saw that it was live the other day, and it was long. That thing was long. Like it was live. It was long. I watched it for I don't know maybe 25, 30 minutes, and I was like, you know what? I catch it on the replay side of the game. So I'm gonna check it out. I'll probably pull up some media outlets, their renditions about what happened, and then I'll jump back into it. But I got a couple of topics. They're all legal topics, but they're surrounding current events. So I thought we should talk about it. So as always, hey, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. If you get some value out of this, I invite you to like, share, subscribe, comment. You don't got to do it now. Just wait and check it out. See if it's something that you like. What's going on, pretty eyes? I appreciate you for tuning in. So the first few topics are topics that are easy because I don't need to talk about it with videos. We've all seen what's been going on, and we're going to talk about President Trump and his executive orders. We're going to talk about one executive order or presidential memo. I don't know why they changed the name of it. And we're going to talk about his early out that he's offering federal workers. And trust me, I know. Hey, everybody phone started ringing once those emails hit. So the very first presidential memo that I think was concerned to employees was related to everybody who started teleworking. You got to bring your ass back to work now. Now, I'm going to give y'all my take. It's probably a very unpopular opinion on telework or remote work. And the memo expressly said remote work, and telework are two different things, but I'm not even going to go down that road. As a general rule, this is just me. I can only speak for myself. I come from an employment culture where people generally assume if they don't see you that you aren't working. That's just kind of an old school ideology of how people thought, but it is what it is. So I can remember prior to the pandemic when people would telework, I would never telework because I was like, hey, if I'm here and I'm supposed to be a leader, I need to be I need to be available. And I had you always gotta come for your boy. I know I know this is an inopportune time, but I knew I wouldn't get it out tonight. I'm gonna be tied up. Tomorrow I'm not gonna jump on. So I was like, let me get out before get to. But that's why it's a weird ass time that I'm on. So hey, I apologize about that. But I had to get this stuff out. But generally, I was never a telework person. I just didn't like the concept of it. I never wanted to intertwine my work with my home, which I consider to be peaceful, my place of refuge. Now, in hindsight, since the pandemic, since I started teleworking, I actually do probably get more work done at home because I just jump on, even if I'm off the clock, when it's something that I think about that I want to do it right then and there. So I probably tend to go a little bit higher. But the general rule, and this is my general position, like, it's your job. You got to come into the office. It is what it is. I know people who moved 2 hours away during the pandemic because they started working remotely, and now they're like, y'all need to come back to the office 5 days a week. So I don't know. I think that this is my general point of view. It's your job. You probably should be there. If they want you to bring your ass in there, you should bring your ass in there. If you moved 2 hours away during the pandemic for something that wasn't going to be indefinite, shame on you, bad move. But now let's talk about and pivot. We're going to talk about the buyout. Now, I ain't going to lie. I didn't even see the buyout. Someone called me and told me about it. And I was like, 8 months to pay? That's actually pretty good coming from somebody who's been fired before and didn't get anything. So when you've been fired before and didn't get anything, having the opportunity to leave and pivot and do something else and get something is actually not a terrible idea. this is my take on it, right? I don't know about the government downsizing. I'm not even going to talk about that because that's a whole nother video for a whole other day that I probably have to put for official co-counsel only because it is extremely political. But generally, I think the people who are going to take advantage of this are people who have the age to retire and people who have the time to retire. If you got the age, the time, and you got your shit together to be able to retire, I think you should jump on it. Like if I had the age and time to retire, 8 months, bet I would sign up for it immediately. Other persons who I think will take it are persons who are already pivoting and getting ready to leave to go to maybe local government, state government, the private sector, whatever. Those people will probably take it. Or if you are an employee who's jacked up and you're actually terrible at your job and you've been on like full performance improvement plans, this actually may be a gift horse. this actually might be, a divine intervention of someone trying to help you and to do something productive. The buyouts, I mean, and I'm gonna just keep it a buck. A lot of people, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Jim, Rita, I appreciate all y'all for tuning in. Yeah, hey, the average age, because I had questions. I was like, yeah, well, why would he want to reduce the? I literally never worked for any government agency that was at 100% capacity. They always hover around 75, 80%. So they're always understaffed. But when I looked it up, the average age of the federal government employees is 10 years older than that in the private sector. So what that means is a lot of dinosaurs who are just holding on to their job. So I think this buyout is good because it's a chance to shake the tree and get all the loose leaves off of it, to be exact. Now, I'll tell you, for me, because I was like, 8 months, it probably wouldn't be advantageous for someone who is in a profession where you have some type of professional designation or some particular specified training. And the reason I say that is because I'll tell y'all, it took me when they fired your boy, they fired my ass and gave me that pink slip. It took me 6 months to find a job that made comparable or more than the job I got terminated from. I was able to find a job where I was doing something and making some income, and it was probably a good income, but it was half. I took a 50% pay cut after I lost my job for 6 months until I found another job. So, because let's just keep it a buck. Like, I don't know what other attorneys are doing with over 10, 15 years of experience, but I'm not going on Indeed and filling out 50,000 applications a year. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna go ahead, hire a headhunter firm, have them do their thing, and that's an entire process that probably takes you 90 days to actually complete the process. So for somebody who has a specialized skill, is probably not as advantageous if you're not a person who's retiring or you weren't already going to transition, because it could take you some time to find a comparable job. So if I say, hey, give me the 8 months, but for 6 months of that, I don't have any employment or I'm getting underemployed, it just wouldn't be something that's viable. The other thing too is if you stay, your job is not guaranteed. I'm looking at a comment. I just saw Ask Matt Solomon. Your job, they made it specifically clear in that memo. Anybody who stays, if you stay, we thank you for your service. We're glad you want to be a part of the team, but your job is not guaranteed. So the other part of it is if you stay and pass on that, you got to assume a certain amount of risk that you're going to take. For me personally, it never makes a difference because most attorney jobs are at will. I literally never had a job where I had all of these protections and appeal rights because I'm an attorney. I work at the pleasure of the law firm. I work at the pleasure of whoever, the attorney general, the inspector general, the mayor, whoever it is I'm employed for. Every position I had at will, so I'm a little bit biased. I don't think there's anything wrong with at will. Every job I had as an attorney was at will. I got fired from one, and it wasn't because of my performance. It was because I called them on something that they were doing that was stupid. So, like, I think at will employment offers a certain amount of because your position is at will, you can quit anytime, you can be fired at any time. I think it gives you a little bit of an incentive to bring your best work. That's kind of my personal thought about it. Let me go over and hit some of these comments before we pivot to our next story, because our next story is an interesting one. We're going to talk a little bit about the Federal Tort Claims Act with regard to an airplane accident that happened in DC that you all told me about during the live stream when I was here. Then we're going to pivot and talk about a lawsuit regarding what one state that considers to be a Title VII issue, but I disagree, against Lyft. And we're going to close it out by pivoting and talking about the interesting thing that went on with Tiffany Henyard. Let's see. I appreciate everybody in the chat too. Thank you all. Thank you all. Ask Max Solomon. That's what made me laugh. Let's see. It depends. There are a few out there. I tell you, if I don't want to give anybody no free publicity over here, but if you shoot me an email, I'll let you know the one that I used. They were really good. There's a few out there, and I was apprehensive about doing it because that shit ain't cheap. And I was like, man, do I want to do this? And I talked to a friend of mine and was like, bro, why this is? Do you think other people who are C-suite executives are out there putting in a bunch of applications on Indeed? No, that's just not kind of how the game goes. So I think it's something that's viable. But email me and I'll let you know the three that I looked at and why I looked at those three. That is, I'll tell you, generally, I haven't looked it up to confirm the accuracy of that, but I can see that potentially being truthful, because agencies that are created by Congress. Funds appropriated for those positions are appropriated to Congress by Congress. So that could, even though I haven't confirmed, I can see that probably is something that's accurate, but I don't have to look to confirm that. And that would be absolutely terrible if if you take it and you think you'll get 8 months, and after 2 months, it stops. The other thing too that you got to be cautious. Some of you all saw the email. When they sent that email out, they put it all over the news. They offer people the buyout. You get 7 months, 8 months. Let's round it up. But they also had language in there that said if you stay, anticipate furloughs, layoffs. Now, if I suspect that there's going to be a furlough, I just think it's inevitable the way that the political climate is going. And some changes want to be made, probably to the tax code. And to make sure everybody is involved, that piece of leverage might be used. But if you're getting 8 months of pay, and then after the budget expires, the continuing resolution expires at the end of February, I believe. I think it's March 1st. It went to March 1st or March 15th. If there's a furlough and people aren't getting paid, you aren't going to get any money from your 8 months anyway. Like, it'll stop, it'll pause. Then the question is, would you be treated the same as an employee when the government reopens? Would you be entitled to back pay? Because employees is a lot of legal nuances. Generally, if you aren't at the retirement age, or if you're at the retirement age and you're financially stable, or you already have something lined up, that's probably the best opportunity to consider that. Let's see. I appreciate everybody. Let me see. Interesting 4 years this will be. I mean, I don't know. I think all that shit will pan itself out. Like, people start running. Then after they start running, that run turned into a jog. Then that jog turned into a walk. Then that walk turned into a crawl. But, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just an optimistic guy. But, I mean, I don't know. I ain't saying it's going to be great, but I don't think it's going to be like the other destruction of the U.S. as a whole. And the other thing, too, is like, I don't know, like, no, I'm not even going to go down that road, but I don't think it's going to be as terrible as a lot of people. Yeah, but Trump don't follow the law, and the Supreme Court says he doesn't have to. Interesting 4 years is going to be. Yeah, and that's fair. It's kind of the same with, it was funny, what was I talking about? It was something related to that the president did. Oh, with this 14th Amendment argument. I don't know if you all see this, but he came up, President Trump, through an executive order, they're arguing over the 14th Amendment, whether children born to migrants who aren't legal citizens, are they American citizens? And they're arguing over the language in the 14th Amendment. And I don't think it's a great argument, but I don't think it's a completely ridiculous argument either. And so it went in front of a judge in DC, and the judge, of course, was like, it was a Reagan appointee judge too, but he was like, nah, bro, he pretty much laughed the federal government out of the courtroom when they tried to say that, well, if you're here as a migrant and you're not a citizen, you're a child, the judge pretty much laughed him out of the courtroom. But the interesting thing is, like you just said, Wolverine, hey, if it get up to the Supreme Court, anything is fair game. They don't got to follow absolutely nothing. They can change it as they see fit. So that's just something we're going to have to see how it plays out. I work for the state, and my job requires me to do state and federal work. What a mess on the federal side. Yeah. I had a job like that where I was a state employee, but my work was related to a federal program. So if the government stops, it was just weird. It was just weird. I don't even know. It was just weird. But I do agree it's going to be a mess. Yeah, that's that Twitter email that he sent. That's true. Oh no, I didn't. Let me see. Did you see the video of Tiff's trip to the check cashing place with Keith? I didn't. Shoot me that link. Either drop it in the chat so I can save it, and we have to talk about it on the back end or on the next live, or shoot it to my email, officialdebtfreedad@gmail.com. Yeah. I know, but my guy Wolverine, we were talking about that before I jumped on, how he fired everybody at Twitter. Then he realized, like, oh shit, those people actually do something, and had to figure out a way to bring people back. Let's see, the Fed shut down. We still do state work, but not federal. Okay, I'm familiar with that channel. I'm gonna go check that out. I'm gonna check that out. All right, real quick, because I'm on the time constraint, because I got somewhere to be. The next story I wanted to talk about was the helicopter and plane accident that occurred in DC. Somebody sent me an email and they wanted to know, it appears to be the fault of the helicopter pilot. It was a training situation. The helicopter was at an improper elevation that caused the plane to collide into the helicopter, right? Hey, rest in peace to everybody involved. I'm not even going to get into the DEI story behind it. The question that they had was, well, how do you go about suing the federal government, and would those people have recourse? Now, this is how the rules generally go. If you are in the military, unfortunately, last I checked, when I was in active duty, I don't think that has changed. You pretty much waive your right to sue the military for certain actions, for most actions, actually, as an actual enlisted soldier or someone who is in the military. So if you're in the military, suing the military is probably not out of the option. So if they perform a surgery, like that's why I didn't get LASIK. They were offering LASIK for free. And I was like, man, y'all not about to leave y'all cell phone in the back of my eye and jack my eye up. But typically, if you're in the military, there's a bar from being able to sue the military as a service member. When a person is out, would the family member be able to sue the government if it is in fact the pilot of that training helicopter's fault? The answer is yes. There's a legal statute. It's called the Federal Tort Claim Act, and it allows you to sue the government for a tort. Well, what is a tort? A tort is essentially, for context of this, negligence. So if you're driving down the road and a military convoy is going to training and a guy falls asleep driving a Humvee and rolls over, hit your vehicle, knock you off the road, as a private citizen, you will have legal recourse against the government because of the Federal Tort Claims Act. That'll allow you to bring a civil action for negligence against the government. And when you're looking at any negligence claim, even if it's a government, if it's you, if it's me, if it's a private individual, those claims are always the same. Negligence. Did a person have a duty? Yeah, they had a duty to operate their vehicle, the helicopter, in a manner consistent with an objective and reasonably safe pilot. Was that duty breached? Of course, they would say, well, yeah, the duty was breached because he operated it in a manner inconsistent with what a reasonable pilot would do. He was flying at the wrong elevation. Just hypothetically, but this is what the news is giving us as the facts. Causation. I don't know if y'all remember we talked about the but-for analysis when we were talking about the fight and would the fight have occurred had Jed sat down instead of going to approach the folks in the back. So negligence, was there a duty? Yes, you had a duty to operate or do something in a reasonable manner. Did you breach that duty? Yes. You failed to use the proper standard of care when operating that vehicle, flying that helicopter. Was there causation? To determine if something is the proximate cause for purposes of negligence, they're going to look at a but-for test. But for your negligence, but for you falling asleep behind that wheel, but for the driver of that Humvee falling asleep behind the wheel, would this accident have happened? No. If he wouldn't have fell asleep, this accident wouldn't happen. So you are the proximate cause of the damages. So in the instance with the helicopter, they're going to say, hey, but for this pilot being at the improper elevation, higher than he should have, would this have happened? It probably would not have happened had he was at the proper elevation. And because of that, the causation part would be next. So duty, what's your duty? Did you breach the duty by not using a reasonable standard of care? Was your actions the proximate cause of the harm, and was a harm actually suffered? I mean, people lost their lives. There's no bigger, greater harm than that. So the answer to that question for the person who sent it to me is yes, a private citizen can sue the federal government. It's called the Federal Tort Claims Act. You can use that to sue the government for any intentional tort or negligence. If a government employee causes intentional infliction of emotional distress, you can sue the government for that. If a government employee commits a battery on you, you can sue the government civilly for that. So that's the answer to that question. Let me see. Is oh that's interesting. Let's see. Yeah. Because I remember it was a guy when I was in the military. Won't name no names, but he had a surgery. Like when you're in the military, you can go get like a vasectomy, and it's just like they just like do it. And this guy was like, "Oh man, I want to go get a vasectomy," and he went to go get a vasectomy, and I don't know what the fuck they did, but they clearly cut the wrong thing. And I was like, God damn. And I was like, man, you can't, like, what's your legal recourse as a soldier? Like, nothing. He'll get out and probably get 100% disability, $4,000 a month, tax-free for the rest of his life. That's probably his legal recourse. Not enough for the injury sustained, but, you know, hey, it is what it is. All right. So next up, I wanted to touch on this. Now we got a video. Because I know y'all all heard this story, and I don't know, I'm conflicted. I'm conflicted with my I'm conflicted with my legal perspective versus my objective common sense perspective. But let me go ahead and cue up this video. Y'all probably, as soon as y'all see it, y'all gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. Then we're gonna talk about this lawsuit. Is this fair or foul? What should have been done? Let's dive in and talk about it.
Tonight on The Edge, a Detroit rapper is going viral for something other than her music.
Fans know her as Dank Demoss, and they're fuming after a Lyft driver allegedly denied her a ride because of her size. And Fox News' Jessica Dubnak is live in Detroit with this story. And my goodness, tell us how this all unfolded here, Jessica.
Well, it all unfolded on video. Deja Banlane whipped out her phone when this all happened. Now, the Lyft driver, he was kind enough and apologetic, but refused her a ride and said that she would not fit and that her weight couldn't be handled by his tires. Now she's filing a lawsuit.
Have you been in cars that size before?
Yes, I have. I've been in cars smaller than that.
No.
Deja Blanding tells us she was just trying to get to a Detroit Lions watch party this month when her Lyft rolled up.
As I'm walking, I see him like making faces or whatever. I'm like, oh man.
She already knew.
I can fit in this car.
No, believe me, you can.
Yes, I
Real quick. I'm sorry. Did y'all hear his response? I want to point out the mistakes that were made on all sides. And there is a legal argument. But first of all, I'm going to wind this back a little bit. I want y'all to listen to how his car sounds, okay? I've had some terrible cars in my day. None of this car sound like it's like the transmission is about to fall out. But I want y'all to listen to how his car sounds, first of all, okay? It's a legal perspective, then it's just my perspective as a objective, non-legal observer. Listen to how his car sounds. And if you really want to find something interesting, listen to his discussion. His discussion was, she's like, I can fit this car. He's like, believe me, you can't. So mistake number one is, bro, you should have just declined the ride. You should have just declined the ride and left. You should not have stayed. You should have known that someone was going to pull their camera out. If you are declining a ride, and you're talking to somebody who did Instacart before, if you're declining something, you're doing Uber, Lyft, anything like that, and you're declining a ride, just hit the decline button and go about your business. Do not stay around for the conversation. I implore you, it's going to go bad for you as the driver. So I just want y'all to listen to the sound of the car and try to peep the conversation, because we're going to get into the make, model, weight capacity of the car and all that.
can fit in this car.
No, believe me, you can.
Yes, I can.
Believe me.
He told her there's not enough room in his car.
The kicker part was when he started to talk about his tires. You know, I feel like that was a slap in the face. That was like my tires, you know, like.
The driver said his tires could not handle her weight.
Every big person you turn down because they can't fit in your car.
Yeah, because they need to order the Uber XL store.
You know what? I don't never have to order Uber XL.
He apologized, canceled the ride, and left her there. The rapper says she's pretty tough.
I get the money if it didn't make sense.
Dank Demoss, as she's known at the mic, is crushed by the whole situation.
I just want them to know, like, it really hurt my feelings.
It looks like a Lyft might be hurting pretty soon, too.
I knew it was illegal, and I knew that it was wrong.
Her attorneys, John Marco and Zach Runyon, say weight is a protected characteristic in Michigan by law.
It would be no different than a driver pulling up and saying, you know, I don't want to have black people in my car.
Are we really going to go there? Are we really going to make the comparison to somebody's weight to their, like, like, this is giving goofy. I don't know. He may be a great practitioner of law, but he got the Pat Rally. It's just giving kind of some shady vibes. But let's go and finish watching this video. Then we're going to break down my personal view versus the legal view of the outcome, even though I disagree with the big part of the law that's going on in this state.
Characteristic in Michigan by law.
It would be no different than a driver pulling up and saying, you know, I don't want to have black people in my car, or I don't want to have Christians in my car or Muslims in my car. It's the same. Under the law, it's the same.
The lawsuit is filed. Since she posted the encounter on social media, other full-figured folks have reached out saying the same thing happened to them.
I can fit in this car.
No, believe me, you can.
Yes, I can. I really want people to see, like, what we go through as bigger people, you know?
We did reach out to Lyft. They did not get back with us in time for this story. Now, Lyft, Uber, those rideshare companies, they can refuse passengers based on a perceived security threat. But according to Deja's attorneys, you cannot discriminate based on someone's weight. It's very clear in that phone video. That is why he denied the ride. Reporting live on Detroit's west side, Jessica Dupnack on The Edge.
And because these Lyft drivers, their own personal rides, I mean, they turn people away, but they have some discretion, you're saying. But when it comes to some of these protected liberties, no.
That is what the attorneys are saying, and they said they had enough to file suit. They have filed that lawsuit, and Lyft has been served, but we will see what happens. We'll stay in touch with Deja.
Yeah, it's interesting because you said so many people came forward after this, so clearly it's an issue out there right now. Thanks, Jessica.
All right.
His opponents called for the mayor.
Before we get into that story, let's back up and talk about this story, right? Let's get out here. Y'all killing me, cool, man. I'm trying to get to. It's a legal point behind the story that I gotta discuss, but I do agree with you. Shout out to you, Wolverine. I think I agree with that comment. I hate when race gets brought up as something that it has no business in. It weakens the validity of legitimate claims that involve issues of race. That's why I don't like when everybody just attach it to something as an extra page to a book report or some shit. I just watched a copy of My 600-Pound Life with Dr. Now, and the guy was in a van, making it look like a lowrider. Man, y'all wild. Let's see. My ex was 550 pounds. I was saying that I told him when he complained that a restaurant would not have chairs. Yeah, I actually asked someone, let me see. This is a disability by your life choices, and now you think everyone else is responsible to accommodate you. Take control of your diet. Okay, I'm glad that, because I'm not gonna name no names, but somebody told me somebody told me that they was like, nah, you looking at it wrong. He didn't discriminate for a weight. It was based on the capability of his vehicle. Hey, shout out to you. That's a very good point. Actually, I think that's the argument. They said you can deny something for safety, and hey, that how you could potentially impact the performance of my vehicle is a safety concern. If she get in that vehicle and, Lord forbid, one of the ball bearings fell out of the back tires and the tire just dropped to the ground, everybody would completely look at him. They'd be like, well, you chose to take that ride. You thought so. I agree with it. I think that's a great comment. So let's talk about this, okay? So the very first thing that I saw when I saw this story is she's like, I can fit in there. He was like, believe me, you can't. But one, his car didn't sound like it was in good, like it ran at optimal capability. It sounded a little bit raggedy. So I needed to know, well, what was the make and model of his car? His car is a Mercedes 300C. I don't know if you all are familiar with the Mercedes 300C. A Mercedes 300C is like a Kia Sophia. It's like the smallest, it's like a car you get when you just want to have a Mercedes, but you don't want to spend a shitload of money. So it's essentially the smallest sedan you can get. It's probably like the size of a Kia Sophia, maybe a small Ford four-door sedan or something to that effect. And I agree with that, because I thought about that on the back end. I was like, well, I could see, because that is the equivalent. It is a disability. It is so imposed on that. So I think that's a fair point. Yeah, his car did sound a little dusty. It's times with times. It's a super small car. 300C is a super small car. Yeah, man, y'all killing me. I gotta get through this. All right, she would have been uncomfortable. So I looked it up. I was like, what is the maximum weight capacity that a 300C could carry? The maximum capacity, according to Mercedes, is 1,000 pounds. So let's just say, let's say generously is 800 pounds in the vehicle. Let's say the driver is 200. Let's say she's 500. So that's 700. The driver's probably smaller than 200, but let's say 200-pound driver, 500-pound passenger, all the extra shit he got in his car, the spare tire and all of that other stuff. So let's just say 770 pounds, rounded up 800 pounds. Now he has 200 pounds of room where he could potentially carry her and be fine. But immediately when I looked it up, the very next thing that it said, and this is according to Mercedes, it said, please ensure that the weight is distributed evenly in the vehicle. There's no way, like someone mentioned to me, like, oh, she could sit in the middle. sitting in the middle of the car isn't an even distribution of weight. Or the analogy was, well, what if he would have picked up 3 guys who were 200 pounds? I was like, you got 3 guys who are 200 pounds. They're sitting in the back seat. It's evenly distributed. The only way that she could have gotten that car and distributed the weight evenly is if she would have laid down in the back seat. And that would be a safety concern. So if she can't fasten her seatbelt, what if he has to slam on the brakes? She rolls forward. So I think that it is a valid safety concern. I think, and I'm gonna just be honest, it's his personal car. It's his personal car. I think you reserve the right to deny. I'll tell you right now, if I'm driving Uber and I'm, as a black man in relatively decent shape, who, if something popped off, I think I could carry myself accordingly. If I'm driving Uber and I'm going to a neighborhood and it's dark, it's like 2 in the morning, and I'm picking somebody up, and I see like 2 people on the corner, and then I'm calling the guy like, yo, where you at? I'm keeping the car on drive, and I don't see him, and it's looking shady. I'm going to deny that ride. Those 2 brothers on the corner, they may just be chilling out there at 2 in the morning for shits and giggles. I don't give a flying fuck, okay? Like, it's my personal car. I reserve the right not to put myself in a situation that's going to be unsafe in any capacity, and I think that's the driver's argument. So, hey, I think that he has a valid argument. Now, let's talk about my personal take is, it's your personal car. You should be able to do whatever you want. Let's just be realistic. When you go on an airline, I asked someone who works at an airline, like, how would you handle it? There's like, the person has to buy an extra seat. Then they have to buy a seatbelt attachment to be able to extend the seatbelt across the 2 seats. So generally, if your physical attributes are outside of the norm, there's going to be some accommodation and or cost associated with it. That could be an extra cost. It could be requesting a vehicle that's bigger size, a larger size, something to that effect. Like, Lord forbid, if this sister passes away, you think you would have to pay more for? It's an apples and orange comparison. But I have a homeboy who works at a funeral home. When someone comes across that size, they charge them double the price. And there's a reason they charge them double the price, because caskets aren't normally made to fit persons who are that large. So I think, just personally, I think that he's 100% in the right. Now let's talk about the legal aspects of it. Now, this is where I'm a little bit upset. Oh, let me see. Yeah, when I got out of the military, I was on leave from Iraq. I don't know if you remember this, Wolverine. I had a green 190E, one of the little box Mercedes. This was back like in, 2005. And I remember taking one of my mother's friends. My mother wanted me to take one of her friends somewhere. She was a really nice lady, but she was extremely overweight. And you know that handle on the door right here that, like, when I get my suits out the cleaner, you hang your clothes off. When she got out of my car, she grabbed that handle and was just pulling on it to get out of the car. And I'm sitting in the car and I'm looking at her. My mother in the back, because she sat in the back because this lady was heavier. My mother in the back looking at me, wanting to laugh. And I'm looking at this lady just pull my handle. And I just was like, please, Jesus, don't let her rip this. I literally just got this car. Do not let her rip this shit off the hinges. And as soon as my mother got in front, she just died laughing. It was like, I saw your face. But these are real concerns that people have with their personal vehicle. They only got one. He's using it to make extra income. So, it is what it is. Let me hit some of these comments up, then we're going to jump into the legal side. Yes, it's just a lot. And it's your personal car. The accommodation was over XL, yeah. Y'all are hilarious. You know what? And I think that was fair. Let's see. She had to pay high to cremate people that size because they have caught crematoriums on fire. Damn, see? It's always a cost to business, especially when something is outside of what the norms are. And so, all right. So legally, okay, this is essentially, when I explain everything, I explain it from a federal level, and I apologize, it's kind of choppy. I'm using this hotel internet, but I explain it from a federal level, but we're going to also look at the states. This is essentially a Title VII claim. Title VII claims are things that the government, the court has found are so entrenched into our constitutional rights that they have to be protected. So you have race. You can't discriminate for race, gender, disability, religious beliefs, nationality. Those are the Title VII things that are absolutely protected at a federal level. Now, this is where it gets weird. In Michigan, being overweight, the state, took efforts to classify it as an addition to Title VII in their state. So they legally have a cause of action as a state violation of a Title VII claim because it's specifically in their state statute. Let me pull it up real quick. Let's see. I thought I had it. Now, when was this article written? Hold on, I got an interesting article. We're going to talk about it. I think it's a terrible addition. I think it's a terrible addition to the state's law. And this is actually an interesting article I just saw in Time Magazine. All right, this is interesting. This is an article written in Time Magazine, and let me find the date of this article. It's a 6-minute read that we aren't going to read, but I'm going to find the date that it was published. Okay, this is interesting now. This is interesting. This article is from 2023, so I don't know if it's still accurate. But in 2023, only one state allowed for weight to be a protected status, and that was Michigan. 49 other states said you being overweight is not a protected thing. I think that that's 100% right. Now, there is a viable argument that a person being overweight is, in fact, a disability. But if it is a disability, that's why they have reasonable accommodations. That's something that a person, an entity, an employer can do to make sure your disability is taken in under advisement and in consideration, and you can effectively do your job and be comfortable with your disability. Unfortunately, she does have a viable legal claim. And now all of these people have come out the woodworks talking about, hey, well, they did the same thing to me because I was overweight. So I think the general rule is if you're driving Lyft or Uber and you want to decline a ride, just decline the shit and keep it going. Don't stop to record anything. Don't do anything to that effect. Now, this is how this is going to play out legally, just so y'all know. All right. And I think Lyft already made a huge mistake. But we talked about this before. The employee is responsible. The employer is responsible for the acts of the employee if the employee is acting within the scope of the job. So if I'm security for you and you're a celebrity and I punch somebody in the face and break their nose, well, that person is going to sue me and you as the celebrity, my employer, because you're responsible for my acts if my acts occurred during the scope of my job. What's the scope of my job? Security services. I might have to whip somebody's ass every now and then. Same concept applies across the board. So that's the reason why she's suing Lyft. She's going to file a lawsuit against this guy. Lyft is going to be named as a defendant. It's the concept of respondeat superior. Legal people like to use Latin. It just means, again, the employer is responsible for the acts of the employee if the employee was acting within his job. You are an employee of Lyft, so I'm suing you and Lyft. Now, Lyft can get out of this lawsuit because that concept only applies to employees. It doesn't apply to people who are classified as independent contractors. And we talked about this before in the video. So what the court will do is the court will look at a test to determine, is this person an employee or independent contractor? If this person is an employee, the employer could be liable for him not picking this woman up. If the court finds that he's an independent contractor, Lyft is off the hook. The first mistake that Lyft made, he apparently got removed and he's no longer to drive Lyft. I think that was a stupid move, because if once you remove them, you acknowledge that something could have been wrong, and it's giving the look that you let an employer go. So I think that was a big mistake. How does the court determine if you're an employee versus an independent contractor? Well, they look at how much independence does the person have to do their job. The more independence that a person has to do their job, probably independent contractor. The more that the company controls how they do their job, probably an employee. So if Lyft were smart, I would have kept that guy on board. I wouldn't have fired him personally. I said, hey, you keep driving, keep doing your thing. And I would have said, this guy's an independent contractor. He has the ability to determine what constitutes him being safe in his own vehicle, whether it's from a physical threat of danger of violence or something that could cause damage to the operability of his vehicle. He's the person with the most intimate knowledge of his vehicle, how his vehicle can perform, what the make and what the upkeep is of his vehicle. Because when you drive Uber and Lyft, they don't never ask you if, like, hey, did you get an oil change or tune up lately? They just ask for make, model, year, VIN number, check out. Okay, you could drive. Your shit could have you can have your whole transmission slipping, engine oil spilling, but Lyft ain't gonna go check any of that stuff unless they get complaints from a customer. But Lyft should have kept him employed and identified to the court how he's an independent contractor. He determines his own hours. He can decline rides that he don't want. He determines when he gets paid, whether it's weekly, daily, bi-weekly. He determins the scope and the hours with which he wants to work. They got all of these factors that shows he's an independent contractor. Now, Demoss's attorney is going to say, no, he was an employee because even though he determined his hours, you all set the policies and guidelines for how he can operate. And so it's going to be a back and forth. I personally think he's more of an independent contractor. That's my personal take. I think, well, I don't know. I see both arguments. I really hope independent contractor work, but yeah, so that's going to be the argument. If he's an independent contractor, they can't get money from Lyft. If he's an employee, he can get money from Lyft. It's terrible. The other thing is, I think Michigan absolutely failed in adding weight to a protected class to bring a lawsuit. That's an actual travesty. I have no clue who actually wrote that law, but I'm assuming the person who introduced that bill was probably overweight as well. It's actually kind of crazy. Let's see. My boss offered to accommodate mine by willing to spend more money, and I balked and told him, my problem, not yours, but thank you. Hey, shout out to you for having a good boss who's willing to try to make things accommodate. I think that's what a good leader is supposed to do. Did she disclose it? She did not disclose it from my understanding. I didn't see anything out there that said she did disclose that she needed accommodation. I did see a video out there where she was on someone's podcast being interviewed maybe, and she said that it was something to the effect that her mind is unaware that her body weighs 500 pounds. She was like, she thinks in her mind that she can do everything like a normal person. I would actually bring that video to court and be like, Yana, if she's trying to argue as a disability, I would say that, Yana, isn't that a disability to her? Because she thinks that she can do everything as a normal person. Because disabilities should be protected. I think we all agree with that. But being overweight, it's a case-by-case basis that I would have to look at. And I don't think this would meet the standard that, you got to be realistic here. If that guy would have picked her up and her car would have got damaged, everybody would be dragging that guy through the mud. Well, you the one picked her up. You should have known what your car can and can't take. And I don't think we want to put people in that position. It's interesting. I know one point, and I'm gonna look this up right now, but at one point that was a big argument over it because people were driving Lyft and Ubers, they were getting into accidents, and then their personal insurance company was flipping the bill. And then the personal insurance company was like, no, we're not flipping the bill. So then insurance companies started modeling and putting language in their insurance policies that says, if you're engaging in a rideshare service, you aren't covered by this policy. This policy protects you in your personal capacity. Then Lyft had to actually start getting insurance. I didn't know this till recently. Lyft, Uber had to start providing their drivers insurance. So I'm gonna be honest, objectively, I think there's factors that can go both ways. I think the fact that the companies are providing insurance is really giving employee to me and not independent contractor. I'm gonna just be honest, it's really giving employees, much as I would love for him to be an independent contractor in this case, that insurance thing was a big deal. So that's the discussion I remember. Let me check to make sure that's right. Okay, so as of right now, they're independent contractors. That's what it's looking like. They're independent contractors. But that's another thing, too. How do you think they're going to be classified as independent contractors? That's a big lobbying thing because they don't want to have any liability for when someone does something stupid. Think about it. What if, I said this on the live stream once, like, what if you were driving Uber? Fellas, let's say you drive Uber and it's like you driving late night, 2 in the morning, and you pick up 3 beautiful women and they just having a girls' night out. You can tell they just been drinking margaritas, mimosas, whatever it is that women drink when they party and turning up. They just having a good old time. And it's a multiple destination. So you drop 2 off one place and then you're going to drop 1 off at another place and she start flirting with you. And you're like, oh man, this is crazy. Like, and she invites you in. That's the reason why Uber wants their people to be independent contractors. Because in that scenario, Lord forbid, if an accusation occurred, they're coming after that driver and they're coming after that company. That's why companies lobby hundreds of thousands, tens of millions of dollars to politicians to support language in certain bills related to ride shares at the state level to denote that they are, in fact, independent contractors. So it looks like they're independent contractors, but that's always something that's going to be arguable before the court. Just because they say, hey, they're independent contractors, that's not, they don't make the determination, the court can make the determination. And if too many factors are leaning towards employee versus independent contractor, the court's just going to make that finding. Let's see. I agree. I think that's what they're going to do. I think they just going to, I mean, like real talk, they're probably going to cut a check because this lawyer going to get 1/3. So this is crazy. They might cut a check for like $60,000 and give him 20. Probably could be more than that, honestly, because they got some big pockets. It's terrible. I don't know if this is going to turn into a class action. I doubt it because even though they say a lot of people came forward, but I don't know. And shame on Michigan for allowing obesity to be a protected thing. A disability is protected, and obesity can be a disability in instances. I definitely agree with that, but I don't think that. And of all 50 states, as of 2023, it was only 1 state that allowed for weight discrimination. It said weight discrimination is legal in 49 states. Essentially, what that means is Michigan was the only state that allowed for people who are overweight to say they were discriminated against their weight. Like, where would it end? Like, if I don't know, that's a sticky road. Like, what if I'm having a curtain call for models, right? Like, oh man, I'm looking for models for my brand, and I just like, hey, I want women who have modeling experience. I don't put a specific weight in there. If I do put a specific weight in there, somebody can say I'm discriminating. It's crazy. If I don't put a specific weight in there and I want you to try out the latest DFD lingerie and some woman coming in who's 400 pounds and I don't got anything to fit her, and I'm like, oh, sorry, you're not what we're looking for, then they can say I'm discriminating. That's it. It's just a terrible road to go down. But I thought that story was interesting with the rapper. Let me see real quick. Yep, that is true. As a licensed practical nurse myself, I work with disabled people daily. I work with a resident facility, and a former client sued us because he was atheist and we had church every Sunday. He lost, bro. That's crazy. Like, in order for him to win that lawsuit, he would have had to be like, yo, they aren't letting me practice my atheist beliefs. Like, that's crazy. I don't know. It get kind of ridiculous. Oh, let me see. Interesting. I didn't know that. I appreciate that, co-counsel. Thank you for clearing that up. I just found out this was just yesterday. I found out about the insurance thing. A settlement offer will be given as it would be cheaper to fight this in court. This is sad. So lawsuits like this is going to be the reason that your Uber and Lyft drives price is going to go up because now they got to pay anytime somebody. It's absolutely terrible. But let's get a big. This is going to the Michigan legislature. Let's give. This is for you for making weight a protected class. Disabilities are protected. Weight specifically should not be protected. And 49 other states appear to have gotten it right, except you all. So shout out to y'all for not having it together. Man, I can't, man. I can't. Then they're gonna try to sue, like, oh, we all got injured. Like, come on. Why y'all? I don't know. It's ridiculous. All right, let's talk about our title story, because this whole story is about accountability. All of the stories we talked about had some nexus to accountability. She's trying to hold the driver accountable. She should be accountable for her own weight and knowing her own limitations. I mean, it is what it is. That people trying to hold the military accountable in lawsuits over the car accident. So let's turn the page and talk Tiffany Henyard real quick. I thought that her reaction was interesting to the fight. And let me see. Real quick, insurance companies keep Father Sweet Paris offers that they think will be exceeded attorney fees and insurance. Interesting. So they kind of, the cost of litigation for stupid shit is already allocated in the budget. All right, per client or rights laws have the right to refuse any recreational activities, including religious activity. He wasn't forced. He just hated that. He did not hate that. He didn't like all that hooping and hollering that was going on in the Baptist church. But you're gonna lose that. You have to be stopped from doing something. You know what I mean? That's the thing. So, hey, glad that worked out for you all. Now, one thing that happened good at the trustee meeting that we didn't talk about because everybody was talking about the fight. I thought this was absolutely beautiful. It was a baby step, but it was a good step in holding someone accountable. And they actually suspended, although it was with pay, they suspended some employees that Tiffany Henyard hired and who appear to have jobs that they either don't qualify for or they aren't doing shit, or both. It could be and or. They could not qualify and aren't doing shit, or they could not qualify but be doing shit. I don't think that's the case. It's probably both. I'm assuming it's probably both, but excuse me, I thought that was a really big step. I know everybody was like, well, what big deal does it make because they're suspended with pay? That's just the normal course of how things go in the government because of those damn protections. That's why I think everybody should be at will. Hey, if you're at will, you're not doing your job, get your ass up out of here. But I thought it was a really big deal that they actually saw, wait, you're hiring people in jobs where they don't deserve this compensation, they aren't qualified to get it, or they just aren't doing the job. So they suspended them with pay. I don't think that they're going to be suspended with pay. Normally, to get to a suspension with pay, there has to be some type of due process involved in the middle. So what that means is you do something on your job that's might be a jacked up, right? The job is going to say, we're going to suspend you with pay while we conduct an inquiry into what went on. Once we found out what went on, then we can make a determination of, are we bringing you back? Are we going to keep you suspended with pay for a finite period of time, a set date, or are we going to suspend you for a longer period of time without pay? So normally it requires some type of due process with like a hearing. It's likely going to be some type of administrative review. I wouldn't call it investigation. There's going to be some type of hearing where he'll have an opportunity, or they'll have an opportunity. In particular, we're concerned with Kamal Woods will have an opportunity to plead his case on why he's qualified or why he's actually performing the job as the hours require. So I thought that that was interesting and a good thing. Let me see. I agree. She's required to make sure she has what she needs. Everybody like being a victim though. You sometimes you gotta know what it is that you need to do for yourself. So let's see what she had to say about this fight. I thought it was interesting, and it's exactly what I expected. I'm just gonna tell y'all, it's not gonna be long. I gotta get ready to do it. This is exactly what I expected. Let's go ahead and jump into this video, and then we're gonna talk about it.
Of Dalton to resign. She is defending herself tonight.
You
Tiffany
don't mind
Henyard
that.
said his opponents called for the mayor of Dalton to resign. She is defending herself tonight. Tiffany Henyard says she is staying put and running for re-election. Henyard says if she wins, she will choose employees much more carefully.
Does that even make any sense? If she wins, she'll choose employees more carefully. You handpicked literally everybody who has caused her a problem outside of her spending. She specifically handpicked the Kamal Woods guy, the Chief Price guy. Literally, these are people she specifically picked or empowered them with big ass raises in the position. Honestly, I'm not saying, I'm no shame to any alleged victims, but even the young lady who is accusing Andrew Holmes, she's only employed there because Tiffany Henyard was cool with her. They were cool at some point. And she said in her interview, Tiffany Henyard gave me a job. She had 2 jobs where she made over $138,000. And she said specifically, she never made that much money in her life. So now at 0 dark 30, you're saying that if I'm elected, I'm going to put people in a position and I'm going to hire people and I'm going to pay more attention to. And again, in that situation, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that Tiffany Henyard has had carte blanche authority to hire and put a lot of people in positions. And she put people in positions and had failed at every level. She weren't holding them accountable to do their job. She weren't taking proper measures to ensure that they weren't allegedly hurt or violated or a crime hasn't been committed against them. She didn't do absolutely anything. She put people into these positions. I don't even know. I'm just going to be honest. I don't know exactly what she did, but it appears that most people she put in position. I can't speak for her indefinitely because I'm not sure what her role was, but it appears that most people she put in these positions didn't have the background to do it. But I'm going to let this play, then I'll talk on the back here.
You will choose employees much more carefully. The mayor of Dalton has had nothing to say in person about the investigation into village finances until today.
I understand everybody want me to be the target. I understand everybody want me to be the bad guy for everything that goes on in the village, but that's not the truth.
Tiffany Henyard met with us and her attorney to comment on the report. They say Henyard released a statement Tuesday, but it didn't get much attention. Henyard says she's being blamed for the actions of others.
You're the boss.
Do everybody know what their employees do? No.
Do you feel responsibility because they were your employees?
I feel responsibility to tell the truth, and that's what I'm doing.
Everybody run. If you ever do a business deal or in a relationship with somebody, and when it's held out right in front of them that they made a mistake, they can't just be like, yeah, I could have did some things bad. I didn't make the best choices, but she takes zero accountability and blames everything that happens to her on someone else. I've never seen a honestly. I don't know. Y'all let me know. I like that from politicians. Like, it would have been an interesting point if during the presidential election somebody said, "Hey, as an example, Kamala Harris, what do you think about what happened at the border? Did you fail at the border?" You know, the border is one of those hard things, and no matter what you do, there are definitely going to be some mishaps and missteps. We did make some decisions that probably didn't turn out the best way, but that's a part of being in a leadership position. You have to make a decision and adjust. Of course, they would have got raked through the coals, but if you make a mistake, just own the shit and tell me what you're going to do to correct it. This woman takes no accountability, and if you ever don't do business with somebody who can't admit that they were wrong or apologize for wrong right in the face of evidence showing that they were wrong.
I feel responsibility to tell the truth, and that's what I'm doing.
On Monday, former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot revealed expenses ballooned during Henyard's tenure that led to a deficit of $3.65 million at one point. Lightfoot reports anything over $5,000 needed trustee approval, but that protocol wasn't followed, and instead the village was paying off expenses from 6 different credit cards that included few receipts from places like Wayfair and Amazon, and over $40,000 for items for an ice skating rink. Henyard contends the expenses were approved and that she was not the one making purchases.
Put the responsibility where it goes. I understand everybody wants to be the mayor. It's not the mayor. It's people put in place.
Lori Lightfoot's not interested in fact, but in spectacle. She's interested in political theater.
He must have got a check because he's been missing for a while, and now he just showed back up. Don't he look like y'all remember the Men in Black movie, the first one, when the aliens came and took the lady's husband's skin off and was drinking the sugar water?
She's interested in political theater that's going to help her, not the people.
Lightfoot spokesperson shared a comment which reads in part, Mayor Henyard and others systematically withheld the truth from trustees and the public about the true financial state of the village. The spokesperson goes on to say, the facts speak for themselves, and no amount of spin can overcome the tragic reality of her tenure as mayor of the village of Dalton. A day after the Lightfoot report, social media lit up with videos of a scuffle at a Thornton Township meeting where Henyard is supervisor. Henyard is seen in this video getting involved in the chaos. Her lawyer claims someone from outside Dalton who attended the meeting swung a knife at the mayor's boyfriend.
These men are attacking him with a deadly weapon, and the mayor, fearing for his safety, did go toward that crowd, risking getting hurt herself.
Her attorney claims that coverage of the incident unfairly villainizes Henyard.
That's cap. I don't know. I'm calling cap on that because we saw Jed as the person being on the ground. We saw her ran up to take a prone position as if she's attacking the person on the ground. And if you're trying to defend Kamal, he wasn't on the ground. So you took an offensive posture, in my opinion. But, that's just me looking at it objectively. All right, let's go and finish up this video.
We should mention no one was arrested or charged in that incident in Thornton Township. Now, meantime, the Dalton board meets on Monday, but after what happened in Thornton, Mark and Cheryl, Tiffany Henyard says she's unlikely to attend unless they beef up security. Watch breaking news. Please, much more.
That is hilarious because other people wanted security beefed up and she didn't do anything, but now she wants security beefed up. I'm going to just be honest. Everybody who was involved in that ruckus should not be allowed to attend any other session. Everybody, Kamal, Jed, Henyard, do your shit via Zoom, whatever it is, it gotta be. You don't want to come anyway, good. Do yours on Zoom. A public forum should not. That shit turned into an episode of the Boondocks. It's the most ignorant shit that could possibly have happened, and I really feel bad for the people because they're being held in a very, very terrible light. I'm gonna get through these comments, and then I'm gonna jump out of here. Let's see. Tiffany was live. Jesus Christ was holding her hand, and she still had apologized to the citizens. Yeah, I agree. Let's see. In my state, the mayor went to prison for 5 years and was banned from ever running for any political position ever again, and was removed for an item of the exact same shit that Tiffany was doing. I agree. She should be absolutely. Yeah, I did see that. I did see that. He was reading his statement off of a sheet of paper. Like, I don't know. Like, you should not be reading your statement when you're being recorded, at least. Especially, I don't know. You should not be. One thing that you should know how to do as a practitioner of law, when you've been doing it for 3 or 4 years, is know how to give a speech related to a specific topic in a professional manner for a short period of time. He was on the air for maybe 20 seconds, if that. Now, of course, you may say something like, "Oh," or something like that, but generally, you should be able to say, "Hey, the likely investigation was subpar at best." I mean, you should be able to give something. So, but he definitely was reading off his hand. He probably had it written on his hand. He giving me his highs. Every attorney we've seen in all these videos all look like shysters. The dude with the pack rally, slick hair for Demoss looked shady. This dude, the stunt double for the Men in Black husband, he looked kind of shady. Everybody just giving kind of shady vibes. Nothing is going to be filed. Yeah, I think the court appearances are over. That's funny. Yeah, a vote for Henry is a vote for nothing. Yeah, they were definitely out of order. Yeah, I think everybody should be banned from showing up during the fight. That was the residents' chance to get a couple of licks on her. Okay, hey, shout out for people having the opportunity to get their licks there. Hey, don't do anything. Keep everything copacetic. Violence is not the way. I just had a few stories that everybody emailed me on, and I just wanted to go through them real quick since I'm not at the normal setup to do everything for y'all. As always, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I got to get ready to get out of here. Y'all be safe. Take care. Be blessed. Remember, y'all are appreciated. Thank you. Bye.